Rachel was seconds from ghosting the wedding until her CEO said, "If it helps, we can pretend tonight." She should have walked. Instead, she said yes. That yes changed everything. Rachel Walsh was seconds from slipping out the side door of her cousin's wedding when a voice behind her said, "Plotting an escape?" I was thinking the same. She turned, nearly sloshing champagne onto her thrifted dress, and faced Jason Hart, her boss's boss at Northlight Books. He wasn't supposed to be here. At work, Jason was a closed door and a calendar full of red blocks. Here, in a simple suit with tired eyes, he looked human. "Jason," he corrected gently when she called him, "Mr. Hart, we're off the clock." He nodded toward the newlyweds. "Groom and I go way back. Small world." Rachel's cheeks warmed. Her family moved in rooms she only visited on occasion, like a guest peeking through a window. Jason asked to sit, and she said yes because saying no felt like making a scene. He surprised her first by knowing her full name, then by naming the small-town romance series she championed. The Cedar Creek books. You fought for those. They're outperforming forecast. Praise shouldn't have felt like relief, but it did. She'd argued for the author for months while her director, David Monroe, sighed theatrically at every meeting. A commotion cut through the music. Lily, Rachel's 5-year-old, stood frozen, cherry punch soaking her white dress. "Oh no," Rachel breathed, already halfway up. "Let me," Jason said lightly. He crossed the room, kneeled, and, like he practiced this, produced a coin from behind Lily's ear. "Invisible ink," he whispered. "Only brave kids can see it." Lily hiccuped, then giggled. Back at the table, Lily asked if she could rejoin her aunt for the dance contest. Rachel nodded, the tension leaving her shoulders. "You're good with kids," she said. "My sister has 3, he replied, a smile flickering. "I've learned to carry napkins and snacks like survival gear." Silence pressed in, not awkward, just new. He asked if she'd dance. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. The sitter had a family emergency. The overnight plan was gone. Panic tightened her chest. "I have a spare suite here for the night," Jason offered. "You and Lily can use it." "I'm staying with friends after the reception." She searched his face for strings and found none, only concern. The photographer swooped in, mistaking them for a couple. Jason's hand found hers under the table, steady, warm. "If it avoids the pity tour," he murmured, "we can pretend for tonight." Rachel knew better. Still, just once, it might be nice to be seen as whole. "Just tonight," she said. Neither of them could guess how pretending for a photo would tug at threads they'd both kept tied for years. The pretend gig started simple. His palm at her back, her name on his tongue like he'd practiced saying it. Jason didn't perform like an executive trying to charm a crowd. He moved carefully, a step behind Rachel, letting her steer. "You keep Northlight honest," he told a cluster of authors, tipping credit her way. She didn't know if it was strategy or truth, and maybe that was the problem. On the dance floor, he was careful, room for error, room for doubt. "You're good at make-believe," she teased. "At dancing or pretending?" he asked. "Either." "Maybe I'm not pretending," he said, eyes warm but steady. She looked away before the thought rooted. He gave a toast later. Spare, sincere, not the showy kind, and Rachel realized she'd misread him, or she wanted to. Lily yawned big enough for the room to see. Rachel said she'd take her up, and Jason pressed a key card into her hand. "Suite 1012, he said. No rush. The suite felt like a place people photographed for magazines, with a window that turned the city into sequins. Rachel tucked Lily into bed, washed punch from her dress, and rested her forehead against glass until her skin cooled. A knock. Jason stood in the doorway, tie undone, duffel in hand. "Forgot this," he said, staying politely in the hall. "Thinks this place is a castle." He smiled, then set the bag down and, without the safety of a crowd, looked older around the eyes. She asked the question that had been burning a hole in her chest. "Why are you doing this? Really?" "Because kindness shouldn't require an invoice," he said. Then, softer, "And because I've noticed you, even when I shouldn't." Her spine went rigid. "Work. Power. Consequences. You're my CEO," she said. "This complicates things." He exhaled. "Is that why you turned down 3 promotions?" The floor tilted. What? I approved senior editor for you 3 times. HR said you declined." She swallowed. "I never saw a single offer. They said his name at once, David." A weight settled between them, anger with receipts. By morning, the performance would be over, but the fallout would be very, very real. Northlight's lobby always smelled like coffee and paper. On Monday, it smelled like a fight. Rachel rode the elevator with David Monroe, who wore superiority like cologne. "Mitchell manuscript. Noon," he said, owning her discovery without blinking. He added, almost smug, "Department heads meet at 10. At 9:57, Rachel's phone buzzed from an unknown number. Conference room, 10th. Don't be late, JH. The room was full: finance, marketing, legal. Jason sat at the head, clear-eyed, in a charcoal suit that said, "Let's keep this tight." His voice was all business. "We're making some changes," he said, scanning the table. Effective immediately, David Monroe is stepping down as editorial director. Silence ricocheted off glass. David surged half out of his chair. On what grounds? On falsifying communications to senior management, misdirecting promotion approvals, and moving projects for personal leverage, Jason replied. HR has the documentation. Words tumbled inside Rachel's chest. Relief. And something like grief for time lost. Jason continued steady. Interim responsibilities shift to Rachel Walsh while we evaluate structure. Whispers. A few sharp looks. David's stare. A warning with teeth. When the room cleared, Jason loosened his tie, barely a breath, and said, I should have told you before the meeting. You think? She replied, pulse still drumming. Half the floor will assume this is about Saturday night. It's about performance, he said, sliding a folder toward her. Emails, timestamps, a paper trail with her name erased, and David's inserted like a rubber stamp. She skimmed, stomach tight. This helps, but optics. We'll let the work speak, he said. And if anyone implies otherwise, legal will enjoy the afternoon. She stood, tired and steadier. I have a kid, Jason. Late nights and travel aren't nothing. We'll build a model that actually fits parents, he said, not a pitch and intention. Start with yours. She didn't know whether to thank him or run. She settled on, prove it. He smiled, brief. I plan to. Wins at work are never clean, especially when your rival isn't done fighting back. 3 weeks into the new role, Rachel was still learning how to breathe at altitude. She was good, she knew that, but good didn't cook dinner or fix daycare pickup. Jason had made good on flexibility, hybrid days, kid-first scheduling, no raised eyebrows when she left at 3005 for a school conference. The work still bled past sunset. That night, her office glowed with the quiet of the nearly empty floor. A knock. Jason, jacket off, sleeves rolled, looked less like a headline and more like a man who had stayed too long at work. Dinner? He asked. There's a Thai place that forgives poor decisions. It's late, she said. And, optics, it's noodles, he said. Colleagues eat. She gave in because the granola bar she'd inhaled at 6 wasn't dinner, and because she wanted to know what it felt like to talk without David in the room. In a tiny booth under a humming fan, they talked contracts and cover art, then migrated to families and dead cars in winter. Jason listened the way editors listen, head tilted, questions gentle. You've done more in 3 weeks than we projected for the quarter, he said, meaning it. Feels good to have my hands on the wheel, she admitted. His mouth twitched. One more thing, he said, voice changing shape. David's been circling Keystone House. He's been approaching our authors. Poaching? She felt the word like a bruise. Allegedly, Jason said carefully. We need to shore up relationships. The author retreat this weekend is critical. Come upstate with me. Bring Lily. They have childcare on site. We'll do business in daylight, bedtime by 8. Upstate, with you. That's a lot of optics. He nodded. I'm asking because you matter to Northlight, because our people should see who actually shepherded those books. He didn't lean in, he didn't push, he just left space for yes. Rachel thought of Lily's sticky hands in the mountain of laundry, of the author who called yesterday to say a better offer had arrived from a friend, of how it felt to be believed. Okay, she said, we'll try your childcare. Jason exhaled, like he'd been ready to hear no. I'll make arrangements. The mountains promised fresh air and delivered a storm with a familiar face. Lakeview Lodge wore the season proudly, wood smoke, red leaves, a lake like polished steel. Check-in was chaos in a friendly sweater. Rachel bounced Lily on her hip and gave the clerk her name. The clerk frowned. I'm sorry, Ms. Walsh. I don't have a reservation under Walsh. That's not possible. We booked through Northlight. Every room is assigned. Mom, I'm hungry. Rachel pressed a hand to her forehead. It had been a long day of packing snacks and bargaining over car music. Anything nearby? Nothing within 30 miles, the clerk said with that sorry, not sorry hospitality tone. What's the holdup? Jason's voice came warm from behind. He checked the list, jaw tightening by degrees. He looked at the clerk. What about my suite? 2 bedrooms, the lakefront. Perfect. Ms. Walsh and her daughter will take it. Rachel stared. We can't share a suite. It's 2 bedrooms and a living room, he said. Simple, not reckless. You'll have the door and the key. Or you can spend 3 hours on mountain roads with a tired kid. Lily perked up. Yow? Only if you teach me 2 magic tricks by Sunday. Rachel exhaled, split between gratitude and dread. She signaled yes to the clerk. As they walked toward the restaurant, she felt eyes on her, a prickle between shoulder blades. She glanced back and saw him, David Monroe. He wore a smile like a hooked line. Company, she murmured. Jason followed her gaze, face settling into neutral. Let him watch, she said. We're not hiding. They weren't, but they weren't exactly safe either. Dinner brought an unexpected ally and a rumor sharp enough to cut. They'd barely opened their menus when a woman with silver-streaked hair and a dry laugh pulled up. Jason Hart, avoiding the crowd again? She turned to Rachel. You must be the editor who actually reads. I'm Elena Winters. Rachel almost dropped her water. Elena Winters, genre legend, Northlight's spine for a decade. It's an honor, Rachel managed. Your Harbor series got me through nursing Lily at 3 a.m. Elena grinned. Then we are sisters in sleeplessness. She welcomed herself into their booth like she'd paid rent, and the conversation rose to a comfortable simmer. Elena took to Lily instantly, trading knock-knock jokes and asking for dragon protection tips. Across the room, David lingered by the bar, pretending not to watch. You two read like a team, Elena said at dessert, eyes crafty. Refreshing to see executives who know family is part of the job. Rachel opened her mouth to clarify colleagues, not couple, but Jason said evenly, I'm lucky to work with Rachel. Northlight is better for it. The pivot was subtle, and Rachel let it stand. The fewer cracks for gossip, the better. Elena invited Rachel to breakfast, just the two of them, to discuss a big shift in her next contract. Rachel tried not to look shocked. On the walk back, Lily skipped ahead toward the pool windows. Jason slid his hands into his pockets. You were about to correct Elena. Wasn't it the right call? Strategically, he said. Yes, David's been seeding stories. If authors see you and me as aligned, it complicates his pitch. So we're pretending again, she said, the word bitter on her tongue. He stopped. Is that what it feels like to you? She looked away. I don't know what it feels like. That night, with Lily down in the second bedroom, Rachel found Jason at the window, lamp off, lake dark and quiet beyond glass. You never answered me, he said softly. About pretending. I'm trying not to torch my life, she said. Work. Lily. Me. A security guard at the door. Someone had accessed the conference room and photographed contracts. Jason's posture changed like a switch flipped. Lock the door. I'll handle it. He left, and the room felt suddenly too big. An email arrived minutes later from an unknown sender. Ask Jason about the college library dare. Ask what he wins if he gets you into bed. Attached, telephoto shots of the three of them at dinner, framed like a family portrait. Rehook, by dawn, Rachel would choose distance right as everything veered off the road. She didn't sleep. When Lily stirred at 5003D, Rachel already had their bag zipped. She left a note. Family issue. Heading back. We'll talk Monday. Arn drove south with the radio low and her brain louder. College. Dare. Win if he sleeps with her. It sounded juvenile and cruel and like something a 20-year-old could have thought was funny. She hated that it was plausible enough to hurt. On Monday morning, the boardroom held faces Rachel only saw in all-hands meetings. The CFO spoke first, voice too calm. Jason Hart was in a serious car accident Sunday morning. Black ice. He's in intensive care at Memorial. Stable. Rachel heard the rest like underwater. Black ice. Returning from the mountains. Returning from her. Guilt leaked into every corner. She went to the hospital and stood in a hallway she wasn't allowed to pass. Family only, a nurse said gently. Rachel swallowed the urge to explain she didn't know what they were yet. The week lengthened. Work ran on rails because she pushed it there. At night, she replayed the email, then the coin trick, then his steady voice saying, we'll build a model that fits parents. On Thursday, her assistant peeked in. There's a Ms. Hart here. Catherine Hart had the same eyes as Jason and an older sister's air of keeping the world in line. Jason woke up, Catherine said. Clipped. He's asking for you. He also said something about Daniel Monroe and a dumb college dare. So the email. Partial truth is a better weapon than a lie, Catherine said. You should hear it from him. Traffic crawled and then vanished. Rachel followed Catherine down a quiet hospital corridor, Hart arguing with Head. Don't be naive. Don't be unfair. The door was half open. Jason looked pale and stitched together, but alive. Rachel, he said, like he'd been saving the word. The truth would land between them. Messy, human, and not at all what she feared. The email, she said, fingers clenched around the railing. Was it true? Jason's answer was immediate. 20 years ago, we made a stupid list. A library dare, first to date someone from every floor. He grimaced. It was gross. I bowed out after one date and a hangover. I never collected anything. It has nothing to do with you. She wanted to believe him. David knew it would sound believable. Because I was once believably dumb, Jason said, and because David never stopped gambling with other people's work. Silence stretched, intimate and raw. He reached for her hand with his uninjured arm. I've watched you fight for authors. I've watched you protect your kid and your career with the same spine. Whatever I feel for you isn't a dare. It's a choice. Her eyes stung. Lily isn't an accessory. She's the whole plan. Then we make a plan that includes her, he said simply, and we write down boundaries, not rumors. Catherine returned with a knock and a small person half hidden behind her. Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit wide-eyed. "Mr. Jason," she whispered, "do you need dragon protection?" Jason's smile cracked open something in the room, more than ever. Lily handed over a construction paper card, glitter glued everywhere. "It's magic. Keeps dragons out." "It's working already," he said, overcome in a way that didn't scare Lily. On the way out, Catherine squeezed Rachel's shoulder. "He's stubborn." "You'll need to be, too." In the days that followed, Northlight's legal team pinned David to the wall with the footage from the retreat. Elena followed through on breakfast and then some, moving her next book to an imprint Rachel would oversee. At home, Rachel placed Lily's shoes by the door and sat with the weight of the choice in front of her. The choice wasn't whether to trust a perfect man. It was whether to trust a flawed one who had shown up when it counted. 6 months later, showing up would look like a beach, a ring, and a family learning how to stand. Jason's recovery was steady and infuriating to him. Two speeds he didn't enjoy. He came back to work in stages. The first day he returned to the office, he stopped at Rachel's doorway, cast still on his left arm. Boundaries talk? They wrote it like a contract because editors read the fine print. No one-on-one dinners without a third person if work was discussed. HR disclosure. No decisions about Rachel's compensation or title made solely by Jason. A mentorship circle to broaden influence beyond him. It wasn't romantic, it was respectful. "We'll get side-eye," he said. "We already have it," she replied, half-smile. "This way, we offer a map." Work found a new rhythm. Elena's project soared. Two authors David had courted returned, apologetic and wary, and Rachel took the calls with patience instead of victory laps. Lily learned 3 new tricks, all of which required loud counting and generous applause. One Friday, Lily ran into Jason's path in the lobby. "You can't run," Rachel said, breathless. "Lobby rules." "Oops," Lily said, "not sorry." She looked at Jason. "Can we hunt for sea glass sometime?" Jason glanced at Rachel, didn't answer for her, then crouched to Lily's height. "If your mom says yes." Rachel measured the ask and the trust, her daughter's question, Jason's pause, the long road behind them. "We can try a beach," she said. One Saturday, they started with a public beach in spring when the crowds hadn't arrived. Lily stomped in squelchy sand while Rachel and Jason walked mental circles around the word family. It didn't feel like a fairy tale. It felt like picking up pieces and seeing if they fit without forcing them. He didn't rush. She didn't bolt. Lily didn't stop talking. The next piece arrived quietly. An ordinary night, an honest question, a small velvet box that didn't ask for perfection. Spring pushed winter off the calendar. On a night that smelled like rain, they had dinner at Rachel's apartment, pasta, cheap salad, strawberries Lily insisted were dessert enough. After dishes, Lily announced she was in charge of bedtime stories and marched off with her rabbit and a book about brave squirrels. Jason hovered by the sink, towel in hand. "I keep waiting for the movie moment," he said, wry. "String lights." "Violins." "Sorry," Rachel said. "I'm fresh out of violins." "Good," he said. "I like us better like this." He reached into his jacket pocket, then out again, nervous in an endearing way she hadn't seen before. "I talked to HR, I talked to the board. You'll never report to me again. We built the structure that keeps work clean. So, this is only personal." The ring was simple stone with history in its shine, not flash. "Will you marry me?" he asked, voice steady. "With Lily's vote, and yours first?" Rachel felt the past and the present collide. Michael's billboard face in her memory, and Lily's crayons on the table, Jason's accident and his carefully made guardrails, the invisible ink trick that started all this. She heard the dishwasher and her daughter singing to stuffed animals down the hall. "Yes," she said, not breathless, "just sure. But we go slow with Lily, and we keep our promises at work." He nodded. "Deal." Lily burst back in, hair wild. "Did you ask?" she demanded. Jason laughed. "I was hoping you'd be on my team." "I am," Lily said solemnly. "But you have to do 3 dragon checks a week." "Non-negotiable," Jason replied. They stood in a kitchen with sticky counters and a future that didn't look glittery. It looked lived in. That was the point. Months later, on a windy beach, a new chapter would start with sea glass, laughter, and a promise that felt like home. 6 months later, Rachel stood on the back deck of a weathered cottage near the water, the kind with sand on the floor no matter how often you swept. Lily's laughter carried up from the beach as Jason pretended to lose a race and then accidentally win it. The ring on Rachel's hand sat light and right, not a costume piece but a daily thing that made coffee and folded laundry. Elena arrived with a bottle of something bubbly and a hug that smelled like ink and citrus. "Told you I could spot a story arc," she said. "Not the shiny kind, the true one." They toasted with paper cups because the real glasses were still in a moving box. The wind tugged Rachel's hair as she watched Lily teach Jason how to find the green glints buried in sand. "She calls it treasure hunting," Rachel said. It is, Elena replied. You're just better at it than most. Later, with Lily asleep under glow-in-the-dark stars Jason had stuck carefully on the ceiling, they stood on the porch and listened to the ocean argue with the shore. Any regrets, he asked, not fearful curious. Just one, Rachel said, leaning into him. That we didn't practice being honest sooner, he laughed, soft and real. We've got time. They did not perfect time, not movie time, but afternoons with scraped knees and contract deadlines, with co-parenting calendars and dragon checks, with boundaries that held and love that learned. Not every day was smooth. Some were stubborn and gray, but the life they built could bend without breaking. Rachel drew a breath that tasted like salt and beginning. We'll mess up, she said. We'll fix it. Jason kissed her temple. Deal. Down the hall, Lily turned in her sleep and mumbled something about brave squirrels. Rachel smiled into the night. This wasn't the life she'd planned when she almost slipped out a side door months ago. It was better, messier, truer, steadier. Hope didn't arrive with spotlights. It came in quiet rooms and hard talks and coins behind ears and emails faced head-on and showing up after the car slid and after the doubt bit. It came in second chances, chosen daily. Because even when the road ices over, even when the story derails, we can write the next page together. Life doesn't hand out perfect timing or spotless beginnings. It offers people flawed, stubborn, brave choosing each other anyway. Choosing truth over rumor, presence over performance, love over fear. Rachel, Jason, and Lily didn't find a fairy tale. They built a home slow, honest, and full of small magic.